Hello everyone and welcome back to another tutorial video. And in today's video we're going to look at part 2 of our high perspective anime and manga series. So for this one, we'll have her standing this time and looking away from us. So just like before, I'm going to start some super faint sort of V-shaped lines here that get smaller as they get away from us. And that'll just help us remember that everything here at the top is going to appear larger and it's going to taper off towards the bottom. So I'm going to start by drawing sort of a slight oval shape. Our character is just looking away from us, so and the skull is not a perfect circle, it's just barely an oval. Let's do that for now. Put in a nose, some ears. There we go. Alright, and I'm just going to recenter a little bit. So from there, I'm going to work across different layers, because just like before, we're just stacking the parts and pieces on top of each other. But this time, from looking from the back, we're going to be using sort of the collar like we did before, but then we're also going to be using the shoulder blades and the middle of her back to kind of piece that all out. So we can pop in some little lines here, kind of give a swoopy line. So this is like the front of the ribs, kinda, because we're kind of following our collarbones here. So we'll make some little lines like that. From there, add in a center line so I can kind of better balance stuff off of it, like so. We'll draw in our shoulder circles, and then from there, still giving a little bit of distance here between the skull and this portion, and this is going to be basically the middle of the back. And we're just going to bump it out a little bit for the shoulder blades. So it'd be about right there, just outside, before swooping it back in to meet the shoulder. Okay, like that. Gonna fix this shoulder over here. Just needs to basically be a little bit bigger here. Just trying to keep it somewhat even with the other side. Do that. From there, we can just add in some super simple breast shapes, just sort of hanging off from the pit area, like that. I'm gonna bring this head in a little bit, got away from me there. Get rid of that. There we go, that's better. Okay, from there, we can add a little center line. So now we just want to stack the body on top of her hip area. So how this is going to work is I'm going to follow a little center line still. But then what I like to do is from there, sort of draw in an angled shape like this. So it almost looks like a little, like a jawline almost, but it's just a lot wider. And we don't want it to connect right to the shoulder, but just under it. And this is just going to help guide us. We'll draw a little jaw coming off from the portion here, from the shoulder blades. Then what we can do is from that jaw, we just need to figure out where our hips are going to be laying. So do this. Now we'll put in hip portion. So I'm just bringing it off of that jaw with a little kind of swoopy line, something like this. And that will be where our hips are. And again, it's tapering away from us, so we don't want it perfectly even with the shoulders. But we do want them to come out just a little bit. Like so. And then from there we can kind of fight back this portion right here. And then from the jaw, or not the jaw, from the hips here, we can just lightly connect just so we can kind of see how this is going to flow together. And from them, remember, since we're looking kind of down at our character, the glutes are not going to just be hanging, but they're actually going to be kind of perky. Just similar to how we're looking at the breast from up here, the glutes will also appear to be rather perky. So we're going to do a straight line like so, with some little dimples here, and then from there we'll just meet this with our hip. And the glute can come just barely outside the hip, so that way it gives the impression that some of the thigh is also poking out from behind the hip. I just want to give rounded glute shapes here. Like so. Add those dimples a little bit bigger now. We can also tidy this line up a little bit, because basically from our previous tutorial videos where she's just kind of in a, you know, just a pose looking straight at us, this line right here is the line that kind of has our lats connected to it and then follows the ribs. And then that basically is just going to check up, and then we're going to just see the hips sort of connect to it. So we'll give them a little bump like this. And then from there, we can put in, I am actually going to change these breasts here. They're kind of sticking way out. So instead, we're just going to barely see them. Like so. That's better. So again, just mess with it a whole bunch so you get the balance right. It's not easy in this position, so don't feel bad if it takes a while. From there, we're going to have our little leg guides. And again, kind of in this center area, we'll have our knees. And I'm using these little oval shapes rather than just circles, just because from here this is going to help me visualize the center point of the overall like meat of the calf and stuff. So I am going to angle these out just a little bit, just so that way it looks like she's holding her weight a bit better. There we go. And again, as these legs get further from us, they're going to taper off more and more and more. So we're going to keep these rather compact here at the top. So still trying to keep them at their thickest right up near the glute. And then just quickly taper it down. And then add our little, these marks here for the back of the knee tendons here. So those are all like little tendons there. Then we'll add some little swoops like that. From there, we can actually do just a little bulge here for the calf before we sort of come off of it, tapering off pretty aggressively to help give the impression that the feet are way below our perspective. They're furthest from us, so they're going to be quite a lot smaller, so we're going to do that. From there, we'll just barely see her heels poking out. And then I'm just going to do some simple like paddle shapes for the feet here. So you can see the feet are very small compared to how we would typically draw our feet for the character with regular perspective, and that helps give the impression that, you know, she's standing and we're kind of above her looking down. So everything is sort of channeling like this, right? So she's, you know, bigger up here, a little bit of a taper, and then drastically drops down. Because you can even taper her like torso and her glutes a little bit more aggressively if you wanted. Like you could do, you know, something a little bit more like that. But for this tutorial here, I just decided to kind of keep it tapered, but not so ultra aggressively that it gets really, really, really tough to use the perspective properly. Because the more aggressive you get with that taper, the harder it's going to be to keep everything looking balanced. But as you get better with, you know, simple perspectives, then you can sort of exaggerate it and push it, and you can get some really cool looking pieces like that. So next we'll just put in some very simple hands and arms. So I'll make another layer here. We'll just kind of have her holding her chest up, so we're just gonna kind of tuck these out of the way like so. Okay, so that pretty much does it. I'm going to just real quick, just for the sake of filling my page, making it easier for you guys to see, I'll make her larger. Like so. And then I'll go ahead and do the line art here. Super simple lines. I'm not trying to waste your guys' time here. So I'm just going to draw this slight oval shape with some little ear marks in her nose so we know which way she's looking. From there, I'm going to use kind of a sweeping line like that to show the traps where they're kind of meeting up to the neck. From there, the collar. Actually, we'll start at the shoulder into the shoulder blade. Then we can put in this collar area, like so. Same thing over here. Trying to keep it somewhat even. Trying to keep this shoulder rounded too. There we go. Then we can do that a little bit. From there, we'll put in the sort of rib marking here, followed by the hip, which also just sort of connects with some extra meat there. Because you could also do it like where it sticks out and then you have the hip, or you could make it a little bit more aggressive, something like that. But for this, we'll just stick with having the meat just kind of blend together there. Then we can draw our glutes. We'll have them just meet here in the middle, just barely coming past our hip line there. Like so. Then goes right up the middle. Have this here, along with the split. So kind of split off like this. And then we can kind of see some little markings here where it's kind of showing where the lower back sort of comes out. Then we can have a slight concave line right here to show the middle of the back. From there, we'll connect our thighs like so, keeping them thickest at the top, but then really quickly trying to taper down to the sort of knee socket here. This, have our calves, then taper quite aggressively to our ankles. So that one didn't really taper. There we go. Needs to taper a little bit more though. From there, barely see the feet here. Just like that. Try to keep these somewhat even. Simple feet, not a foot tutorial. Alright, so, oh yeah, down the arms and chest. So, connect this here, follow the line. Then barely see the chest poking out, like so. Okay, so, just going over what we did. Again, we're just keeping in mind the curvature of our character. I will actually tighten this up just a little bit though. So still trying to go for that, you know, cinch sort of hourglass figure, but now we're just envisioning it at a different angle, so it's not going to be quite as straightforward as it is when our characters are just looking at us, or we have a more head-on perspective. But you just want to keep in mind, keep the head a little bit larger than typical. We want the overall size to kind of flow downwards like that. And just stack the parts on top of each other and just try to find a way that's easiest for you to envision that. You know, you want the head on top of the ribs, which are going to be on top of the hips. The glutes, you kind of want to just stick them out and then get your legs out from under them so the glutes kind of sit on top of the overall leg. And it just takes some practice and some doing. This is a pretty simplistic look at this perspective, but like I said, don't want it to be, for our first looks into perspective, I don't want it to be too crazy. So I'm just kind of editing some of these lines as I go because some of these got away from me. But like I said, for the overall, what you need to know for perspective, this should accomplish it, and it'll just take some practice and some balancing and things like that. So